Attention to all founders, hustlers, and hardworking entrepreneurs. The Hustle's 2024 Entrepreneurship Trends Report is out now, and it's a goldmine of valuable strategies, data-driven insights, and expert tips for elevating your business. Have you ever wondered how successful business owners are staying ahead of the crowd in today's super competitive market? Well, we talked to over 500 small business owners to uncover how they're doing it and did a ton of research so you don't have to. We know you're busy building your business, so we got you covered. The Hustle's 2024 Entrepreneurship Trends Report is something you don't want to miss. This right here is the future of entrepreneurship. So stop what you're doing right now and check the link in the show notes to get that report right now. Good morning, everyone. It's Monday, October 7th. I'm John Weigell here with Martina Bretous, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. The AI race continues to heat up as Meta previously announced more AI eyewear and celebrity voices to grace their platforms. This all while OpenAI has dealt with staff exits and a multi-billion-dollar funding round. Good for them. We're hoping to keep up with this and more with the return of Martina Bretous, the editor of Hubspot's Next in AI. We'll get to all those updates in a bit, but first let's give you the hits and headlines in business and tech. Okay, some really great news if you're not Google right now. According to research firm eMarketer, Google's share of the U.S. search ad market is expected to land under 50% next year for the first time in over 10 years. This is a result of platforms like TikTok, Amazon, and Perplexity gaining ground in the search space. From there, we go to Meta. If you're a Facebook user right now, the algorithm is coming for you. Meta announced a few changes to the app on Friday, and one of those glaring ones is more recommended content. We all love that in your feed based on the posts you like and interact with. So you can expect a bit more of an Instagram-like feed in the future on Facebook. Thank you, Mark Zuckerberg, for that, I guess. Keeping with big tech, Amazon is still cutting back on its cashless just walk out convenience stores, with 3 being slashed in New York last week and only 17 remaining nationwide. Since 2023, the company has actually almost halved the number of stores, so we'll see what happens with the next ones. They did just open one in Washington, though. Next, if you're like me and love browsing Zillow is adding climate risk data for its for sale listings. Powered by the nonprofit First Street Foundation, the tool will include climate scores, maps, and data on flood, wildfire, heat, wind, and air quality risks, things that about 80% of home buyers are deeply considering, as they should. And finally, car sales are down all around the U.S., with GM sales falling 2% and Toyota sales falling about 5.6% in Q3 of 2024 compared to just a year prior. This all while prices in the industry remain high and, quote, unaffordable, analysts say. Okay, it's the first Monday of the month, and we're back with Martina for another AI update. How are you doing, Martina? Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. We're doing great.
Great to have you back. You know, I was actually thinking the other day that this may have been too soon, considering we just had you on like 2 weeks ago for a similar update.
Yeah.
Live at Inbound.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm realizing that it's totally not.
It's never too soon.
And a lot has happened.
Yeah, when it comes to AI, it's never too soon. You can have such a change within just a 24-hour period. So there's always something to cover.
All right, so as per every month, the first thing I wanted to ask you once again is, did you have any huge surprises since the last time we saw you a few weeks ago?
Yeah, so for the first time, this is a tool that I used last month in September, and I was really blown away, which doesn't happen a lot with AI tools. Google has this tool called Notebook LM, and they added this new audio feature that's amazing. You upload documents on Notebook LM, and then you can convert it into a podcast.
Whoa.
And so it's these 2 podcast hosts that are AI generated, and they're having a conversation about the documents that you uploaded. And it is so creepily accurate and conversational and human sounding.
Oh my God.
It's wild. And they're not just talking about it. They are having banter. They're joking around. It really sounds like 2 people having a conversation. The kind of cadence of a podcast they've nailed.
Wow.
And I thought it was wild. I think it's going to change the game for studying for a lot of people. for just people who take in information differently, I think this is going to be a really great tool. I'm sure there is some marketing potential there, like some content repurposing potential there. But I was just blown away by how non-uncanny valley it sounded, because that's been a thing.
Yeah, that's actually crazy because I think last month, this guy that I met at a networking event, he's also like super into podcasting. And he was like, hey, you want to check out this podcast that I made with only AI? And like me, a fellow nerd, was like, yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
And it sounded exactly like you're saying. I think he made it using 11 Labs, perhaps, but it sounded almost identical to an actual podcast being done by two people. It was kind of surprising, kind of shocking. Didn't think we'd get this far so quick, but here we are now.
I didn't think so either, because even with 11 Labs, I think if you pay attention long enough, you can kind of detect the lack of, those noises that people make right before they say something or in the middle of something. Like the pacing sometimes can be off with 11 Labs in my experience. But this one was so natural sounding. It really took me aback. And yeah, I just thought it was wild. And again, the banter. It only takes a few minutes to generate it. But they're having conversation about this like real people would, and it's not odd and it doesn't feel strange. If somebody put this podcast on, I wouldn't be able to tell that it was AI generated at all. And I think that's wild.
That is crazy and scary. And next month, we may not be here anymore. So good thing you told me that.
I know. John, this is official notification. You're on notice.
Great. Here we go. Excited to hear that. Perfect.
Yeah.
So to continue this discussion, that's a big, obvious step forward in the podcasting realm. And we've had a couple other steps forward this past month too. A lot of it being from Meta, which is a company that I personally didn't really expect to be so ahead in certain departments of the AI race as they got. And they recently announced another pair of AI wearables called Orion. And they're succeeding this past Ray-Bans model that Meta put out that actually did quite well for a smart glass. So what is your take on how these new Orion models will perform once they're released? They probably won't be released for a good while, of course.
Yeah, they said the prototype is not going to be sold to consumers. They're going to use it internally while they do some testing. This one, I'm really not sure about because I think consumers are so worried these days about data privacy. And let me read you a quote about what they said about how it's going to work. They said, the prototype uses a wristband component to pick up on users' neural signals and let them control the Orion glasses using their brains. Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear that, I'm immediately like, whoa, that feels so Black Mirror-ish. It feels a little scary for me.
It does.
I would have a hard time, I think, just coming to terms with using a device like this. But I think the same audience that loves smart glasses is gonna really like this. It's more advanced. So I think there's definitely a market for it. I don't think it's me, but there's definitely a market for it. And I think it'll perform really, really well.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like Meta's really doing very well in the eyewear industry right now in technology. We had a few other things come out this year, eyewear-wise. The Apple Vision Pro came out this year in February, which is crazy to think about. Feels like such a long time ago. And Meta's been coming out with more Quest models, notably the Quest 3. So it seems like they have quite a dominance right now over the eyewear field. Do you think that's going to continue, or do you see anybody else coming up against them anytime soon to challenge them on this?
I think Meta's in a really good position, particularly because of their price point. So if you're just looking at Quest 3, Apple's Vision Pro is 7 times the price. So already from an accessibility standpoint, people are going to go first to Meta instead of going to Apple. Obviously, Apple's going to be higher quality. They're probably going to have a lot more features, even though Meta's come out with a lot of comparable features. So for the price, you're still getting a lot. I also have to say that Meta has the advantage in terms of style. Like the glasses from a lot of the other companies look like smart glasses, right? They look like the Clark Kent pair of glasses. They look a little professional. They don't really look like lifestyle like Meta has been able to do because of this Ray-Ban collaboration. So I think because of that, they have a lot of an edge. They have price and they have the look, which are two things that people go for. And if you're already in the Meta universe, which a lot of us are, you're probably more likely to go to a product that you know has that brand recognition and that's already integrated with some of the things that you already use versus something else, even though Apple obviously is so integrated into our lives. But are you willing to pay $3,500 for that, right? So I think they're going to be hard to beat if they keep their prices where they're at.
Yeah, and like, for example, the previous Ray-Bans model that's been doing quite well is valued at like $299, basically $300.
Right.
And it's an AI-enabled pair of smart glasses that can take pictures, record content, do all that stuff. And a lot of people love it for that reason. And speaking of kind of what you're talking about with the familiarity aspect, Meta also kind of announced that there's going to be some AI voices now from celebrities, including from Kristen Bell, Judi Dench, John Cena, many other favorites of ours, probably. Given kind of the controversy that we've seen in the past over AI voices, notably earlier this year, OpenAI used a voice very, very similar to that of Scarlett Johansson in Her.
Yep.
Didn't quite go over too well. They didn't get the permission to do that. They asked Scarlett Johansson herself, and she declined. So they kind of went another route and got somebody that sounded like her.
Yep.
Given that kind of controversy that happened, how do we feel about celebrity AI voices? I mean, this seems generally positive if you're Meta, considering that you want to get people to turn over to your AI functionality sooner rather than later. So what do you make of this celebrity integration?
I think it's interesting because I kind of want to dive into why they picked these people. Because when I think of using these tools, having a celebrity voice is not what's going to get me to use it. I actually rather if they speak my language, if they know slang, if I can talk to them in a really natural way, that to me is more likely to get my attention than having a celebrity voice. And some of the celebrities that they have, I mean, we know Kristen Bell from Gossip Girl, and obviously we know John Cena and Judi Dench, but I don't associate them with iconic voices. Of course, we associate people like Morgan Freeman. And so I'm kind of curious about the reason why they picked these people. And that leads me to adoption because I don't know what their game plan is and who the target audience is for these celebrity voices. So it's hard for me to say if I think it'll actually help. I understand it, but I just don't know if it's enough to get people to increase their adoption.
Sure. I'm sure it'll help more than hurt, probably. There is something else that I wanted to touch on as we move away from Meta. But another company that we've been talking a lot about recently is OpenAI, of course.
Yep.
They had a very interesting few weeks.
To say the least.
This past week as well, to say the least. A lot of people left. CTO Mira Murati left, as well as a few other officials. And it seems like everybody's kind of out the door. I don't know if you've seen that meme of Sam Altman with like 4 different officials around him, and then AI generated is just him alone.
Oh, yeah. On the blog, we included it in our roundup of like AI news. We're like OpenAI and their lone wolf, Sam Altman. And we included that Reddit post because it's fantastic.
It's hilarious. And as this is happening, they're moving towards profitability. They're moving towards being a for-profit company. I mean, all these transitions happened within basically a month. What do you make of all this?
Ooh. Well, first, let's do a quick rundown. We have one co-founder, because there's a ton of co-founders at OpenAI. One left in August. The chief scientist left in May. Another co-founder left for Anthropic. A research scientist left in February. And obviously, we have the CTO who left in September. So there's a lot going on. And like you said, it's coinciding with the rumors of them transitioning from nonprofit to for-profit. I mean, some are saying that it's signaling like internal conflict about the direction of the company because we know that OpenAI, their mission was to develop safe AI. And Sam Altman, if you remember the ouster or the attempt of an ouster that happened last year, the question was, is he still keeping this mission central or is he kind of steering away from the mission? So I think with all these people leaving and this transition happening, we have to start to wonder, is this why? Is it because people don't believe that Altman is willing to maintain that mission? So I think it'll be interesting to follow.
Yeah. And it seems like a lot of companies don't exactly have a problem with this. A lot of investors and companies are behind him. Just last week, at the time of recording, OpenAI announced they nearly doubled their valuation to $157 billion. And it was just only valued at, but $86 billion earlier this year. So they really, really gained a ton over the course of just this year as these exits have happened and as Microsoft has kind of put more stock into Sam Altman at the head of OpenAI. This is crazy. I feel like I don't even have a question, but it's just what a development.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard not to keep stock in OpenAI. They're a huge player. We can't deny it. So even if they're moving away from this central mission that they started with, I think they're kind of too big to not follow. They're too big to not invest in. So Sam Altman seems like he's grounded in his plans. And, people are just going to have to be on board or get left behind because he has a mission. And whatever that mission is, I don't know if it's what we think it is, right? So we just have to wait and see how it's going to pan out. But there's been so much transition and it seems like there might be some conflict in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could be. With all that being said, what can you expect for next month or the time going forward?
October is going to be Apple Intelligence Month. This is when they're finally set to launch these highly anticipated AI features, custom emojis, summarization, Siri integration with ChatGPT. Not all of these are going to be available in October. Of course, some of them are going to be more in 2025. However, the first set is going to be released in October. So I'm really excited to follow that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too and seeing how it competes with all these other AI giants kind of in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but anyways, that's going to be it for today. But thank you so much, Martina. Pleasure to have you on as always.
Yes, see you next month.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the Hubspot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a ton more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get signed up at thehustle.co/email, and we'll see you tomorrow.